Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handi Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters, and Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years. Hi, and welcome to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community. I'm Mary Kate Karr-Petras, and with me today in the studio is Marie Eldredge. Hi, Marie.
Hi.
Marie is an educator with Handi Quilter, and Marie is here today to talk to us about great curves, or how we can achieve great curves using a long arm machine, correct?
Correct, because it's not always easy to get a curve, so there's a way to make it easy.
Okay.
Okay, Handi Quilter has got different templates that are waves and curves and ovals that'll help you get those curves on your quilt. So we're going to start out and just talk about how to get them on your quilt.
Fantastic.
Okay, this first one we're going to do is just this simple double line curve here that just looks very elegant and slender, and it's just simple. So the first thing you have to consider is you have to consider your corner. So you would measure that out. Then the rest of it, I really don't like math, so there's an easy way to get this done. And you can just use adding machine paper, and you can measure this the full length of your quilt, or you can measure part of it. The things you want to be careful of are like right in the center. Those are places where your eye is drawn to. So you really want these points to line up in the center. So you can take your adding machine paper and measure it the length that you need, and then fold it up. So this is about...
So you can get equal distribution.
Equal distribution, and that's about the size that I'm going to use. Then we have our option of different templates that will do that work for us. So we can just kind of audition them. So you don't have to use the whole part of this template. We have different grid lines on here, so we can use part of it or half of it on here. So pretty much, let's start at the center. And I'm going to draw a line across here to get a diagonal. So I'll just draw that. And then you would take your paper. First we'll do our center and decide where we want that to meet. So we'll just line that up with that center line, and we'll just go to there. And you always have to consider that your hopping foot is going to add a 1/4 inch to whatever you do. When you're doing rulers, you always want to have a ruler base on, and I've attached the ruler base here. And now I'm just going to mark this.
What does the ruler base do?
The ruler base gives a spot for the rulers to balance so they don't tip and get in underneath the hopping foot. You don't want to crash into those. The last thing you want to do is have your machine down so you can't quilt, because we love to quilt, right? So anytime I can have a tool that will help me get the job done, that's, makes you look good, makes your quilting look good, makes it easier. So the first one we'll do, I like to just measure this out, and I know exactly where that's going to be. I'm going to line up my seam line, or your marked line, and I'm just going to mark that right there so I know exactly where it is. And then I'm going to put the hopping foot down right in this seam line, because that's where I want to start. I'll put the hopping foot and get my everything all set and balanced. So that, let's put this with the needle down. Whoops. Okay, all right, there's our first one. We're ready to roll. Okay, so when you're working with rulers, you want to make sure that you're pressing down on your ruler towards your ruler base. You want to make sure that you're pushing from your machine towards the ruler, and then press the ruler towards the hopping foot also. So there's my first one. And as soon as you start getting to that other line, you need to slow down so that you don't, so you stop right where you want it to stop. Okay, now I'm lined up on this line, and this ruler has a line down the center. I love that it has enough lines that you can line up on. So we'll just go up to the top of there, and I am going to round this one, so I'm going to hug that really tight and come around. All right, and now we'll just keep working our way across the quilt. Let me do this one. So I'm like if one line is good, 2 lines is better, right? Okay. So I'm just going to make this a 1/4 inch larger, and I can use the same ruler to do that. So the way you do that is because I've already stitched that line, I can put my template right on the stitched line, and now this time the hopping foot will be a 1/4 inch out.
Nice.
And that'll just ride right across there. It's a little bit different in size, so you can just move your template over and come over. Right there, and then I can turn, put that right on there, and keep going. So that's how you get that one on your quilt. And it, you know, actually for a border or a sashing, this is really, you know, an easy way to do it.
It's really elegant looking.
And it is, isn't it? Just that slender little thing. Okay, this is another border that you can do using these arcs. These are some funky looking, when I first saw these arcs, I thought, what in the world would you ever use that shape for? But it has a deep curve on this side and a very shallow, and I'm finding all kinds of uses for it. So this is another border that you could do, another design. And of course you would measure out how this is going to fit on your border and all that kind of stuff, but we'll just show you how to get started and do this one. I'm going to start with the smaller one first, and I'll line up on a grid line on the ruler with the seam line. Again, I'm just pressing down on that, pressing down on the ruler base, pressing against the hopping foot against the ruler and the ruler against the hopping foot. Sometimes you can put a piece of tape on here if you're doing a whole bunch of these, so it'll remind you what grid you're on, but we could probably keep this straight for a minute, right? All right, and then I'm also going to echo this one 1/4 inch, so I can just move that up into there, and we'll go across. Adjust the ruler just a little bit. This time I would do the same to both of these, but we'll just show you how this is going to look. I'm going to come up here about a 1/2 inch.
And this is where you're using that more gradual curve?
This time I'm going to echo it with a little bigger, so you can mark right where the center is and get a grid line there to... All right, so we're a little bit bigger there, and we'll just go across. All right, now we have a space. So this is what we're going to do. So that, let me just show you how to put the circles inside of there. This is the mini circle ruler. And the way you attach this to your hopping foot is you have to have your needle up, and then it has these slots here. And I can measure this, and that looks like it's about a 1/2 inch. So we'll put that on there. I'm going to have my needle right at the seam line because that's where it'll start stitching. And then we're going to, the thing I like about this ruler is that there's so much to hold on to, so you can balance that. So we'll just, let's see, slide that up there. Go around 1.5 and then slide the ruler, and you put those right inside those lines. Of course, you could measure really, you know, you would measure really careful, right? So that they're right in there.
Okay. That's how you get those nice, perfect little circles.
That's how you get nice, perfect circles, all right? So my theory is if one is good, 2 is better, right? And then if you can add to it, you know, that's always better. So this is me. I'm like a quilted to death kind of quilter. So I heard a saying the other day that was, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So that's my, that's what I do. So this, I have done straight lines that come into it, and this actually was done with a wave ruler. This is the wave, and it has a shallow curve at the top, and then these are a little deeper here, so you can see how that fits in. I actually measured the corner on this one and started from there, so you kind of get this peak to it, and you can see how all of your attention is pulled here to this corner where it has that extra thread plus that diagonal movement. So the same thing here, I just did the circles on the inside, and then this is just kind of a half of a feather on the outside. So whenever I do demonstrations, I always want to go, okay, but what does it look like on a quilt?
Sure.
So I happen to have a quilt. This is one that has, we were working in the studio and we each had a project. We had some little sunbonnet Sues that were cut in squares, and we were to find something to do with them.
Okay.
Those aren't my favorite. But I took those and I took some fabric from my stash, some older fabric, and put it all together. And you can see on this quilt how it looks, and the corner is just a little bit different than this one. The corner is more rounded, but I really think it goes with the quilt and the, traditionalism of it. So
Right.
anyway.
Sunbonnet Sue,
Yeah.
So you take what you get and you made it your own.
And I made it my own.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So.
Fantastic. Beautiful quilt, and these are great techniques that I'm sure a lot of long armors will be able to make use of, and they are great curves, as you said, and they just add so much to these borders. Beautiful work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be sure to check back with Quilters Newsletter TV for more ideas on how you can use different techniques for your long arm machine, as well as all of the other videos that we have available. Thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handi Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters, and Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years.